care of that?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. Good morning, everybody. We're going to get started here in a few minutes. We've got a few folks who are now just joining us and some that have been on another call. So we're just going to give it another minute or so, and then we'll get started. Thanks. Again, good morning, everybody. My name is Brandon Butler, and I'm the Executive Director of the Maryland Workforce Association. Thank you so much for spending a little bit of your day with us as we have a really, really powerful conversation coming up as a part of our MWA learning series. This is something that was presented at Raising the Bar this year and has truly everybody that has sat through this presentation left truly impressed and really thinking. So we're going to turn it over to our presenters in a second. But I have a couple of just some housekeeping comments. This is going to be really interactive. So if you have a question, you've got a comment, please, we're going to monitor the chat for questions. We also, if you have a comment, you want to jump into the conversation, raise your hand. We've got a lot of folks who are going to be attending this session, and we'll make sure that we let our presenters know. Another thing that we want to make sure that you're aware of is if you take a second, hit the QR codes if you aren't a friend with us on Facebook or like us on Facebook or join in the LinkedIn conversations to the Maryland Workforce Association. We would appreciate you being a part of our community as well. We also have another MWA learning presentation coming up here, another Raising the Bar presentation from our friends at JobWorks. This is AI for the workforce professional, and it was a powerful session at the beginning of the year that will give, JobWorks will give free tools that workforce professionals can use, whether you're working with job seekers or businesses. It's a don't miss conversation with our friends at JobWorks. So if you haven't registered for that, it is also a free event. Go ahead, hit that QR code, and make sure that you join us for for AI for the workforce professional. Also, we have Bridges Out of Poverty. This life-changing simulation and session, it will be held November 5th in Prince George's County. So please make every effort to be a part of that powerful discussion as we talk about this life-changing simulation and session. Everybody that goes through Bridges really comes out changed. So make sure that if you have time on November 5th, hit the QR code, register for that event. That includes an all-day session and lunch as well, and that at a cost of $99. So right now, before our presenters start, we have a number of folks who are in the audience today from all different walks of life. So if you hit the QR code or if you go to slido.com and enter the participant code, we're going to pop up a quick survey just to see who's in the room and how. Again, who's in the room and some impressions about the conversation. So first, if you are a workforce professional, if you are a local workforce professional, business or other, I know we have some career coaches. We have some folks from the Maryland State Department of Education on the call. We wanted to see who you are. So if you can just tell us who you are, that'd be fantastic. Again, great showing from our local workforce areas. There we go. We've got some business leaders. Thank you so much for attending as well and hearing this conversation. We're going to jump. We've got some folks moving, but it looks like largely from the local workforce areas. Shout out to our 13 local workforce boards. Also, here we go. In your opinion, what do you think motivates today's workers the most? This is an interesting question. Higher pay, flexibility, job or growth opportunities, purpose and values alignment, sense of belonging. What do you think? I think this would be a fantastic question to stick at the end of the conversation as well. This will be.
I say excellent segue.
It's a great segue, right? It's interesting though to see what they're saying here.
All right, so just a few seconds longer. We've got folks who are still answering our active poll. Oh, higher pay starting to inch up there a little bit. All right, we've got our last question before we hand it over to our presenters. How confident are you that your organization is meeting the expectation of younger workers? Very confident, somewhat confident, maybe not confident at all. All right. So we're somewhat confident. Let's see how that interacts here at the end of our presentation, because I'm going to not really take any more of your time. I want to hand it over to our presenters today. Hold on one second. Of course, technical difficulties, right? All right, I am going to hand it over now for building the future pipeline, attracting and retaining the next generation of workforce. And again, we are very honored to have the two speakers who are with us today. And I'm going to hand it over to Mr. Ed Evans of Maryland Live. Ed?
How are you? I'm going to yield because I'm going to be very, very polite and do it. You know, my grandmama taught me, and I'm going to let this wonderful woman next to me go first, and then I'm going to double back into it. So, Kimberly, I'm going to yield to you in this moment.
Thank you very much. She did a good job.
She did a good job.
So my name is Kimberly Ferrara. I am with Arundel Workforce Development, and of course, you all know the famous, fabulous Ed Evans here at Maryland Live, or it's Cornish Gaming.
Cornish Gaming, yeah.
All right. So we wanted to have an opportunity to again kind of revisit the session that we had at Raising the Bar, which was so much fun. This kind of webinar session came about. I met Ed at one of our hospitality collaboratives, and I have like an HR and talent acquisition background, and we just got chatting. I don't even recall how the conversation came about, and it was just really amazing how the perception individuals have in that the perceived
someone needs to mute. Sorry.
That's all right, thanks. The perception that people have of one another, and so we wanted to kind of put this together, kind of bridging that gap. So again, what we're going to be talking about is how to build a future pipeline by better understanding the next generation of workers and what they really want, because every generation is going to be a little bit different. So you really have to take the time to get to know one another, get to know your employees, understand what their motivators are. We're going to share some practical tips, best practices, and helping you attract, but also retain. Also adding some structure around what Ed has coined the plus factor. So that's what else are their motivators? It's outside of the traditional benefits. What are some of the other perks and things that you can do to help attract and retain? All right. So today's workforce reality. Gen Z, just going to throw up a couple of quick facts here if you want to move to the next slide there. Awesome, thank you. So Gen Z values meaning, flexibility, support, and fun. I know that sounds, real pretty and fluffy, but it's okay. We'll explain. 65% say feeling valued matters more than high pay. Now, before you get too excited and think that you just have to give them a pat on the back and you can pay them peanuts, that's not what we're saying.
Not what we're saying. It's not what we're saying.
Not what we're saying at all. Everybody wants to feel valued. Everybody wants to be heard and seen. Employer pain points, retention, engagement, work ethics. Again, I don't care what your industry is. I don't care how small or how big your company is. These are all points of contention. So these are some of the things we're going to dive into today. All right. And next slide.
We go to the next slide.
Right.
So just full disclosure, I have some young people in here with me off to my right. As we go through the conversation, they'll be nudging me as we're talking, going, that's not me. That's not me. So, and when they do that, we will obviously pause and let them speak. We found enormous value in our session when we allowed them to have the floor and to articulate what their work language was. And we're probably going to do the same thing today. This is going to have a podcast kind of feel to it. We're just going to have conversation and dialogue. We encourage questions. We encourage feedback. So it's more of a conversation podcast style versus a presentation. And I'm going to lead off here with the wonderful thing that I want everyone to take away from is that one size does not fit all. And when we talk about the workplace, you know, there are structures. Don't get me wrong, for all you HR professionals, I know that there are certain things that obviously we have to have and we have to do, and there's rules, and I get that. But as I was talking to a group of young people yesterday and this morning, I began to, it just reinforced what I thought was right, what I know is right. They have different expectations, okay? That's just facts of what work should feel like for them. They don't have a different expectation of work. They have different expectation of what work should feel like. So I'm going to start by saying, they're not lazy at all. They just have a different view of what work needs to feel like and look like for them. Next slide. This here is probably what most of us feel like most of the time, and I'm sorry, but this is what we feel like sometimes when we're trying to get the next generation to understand how we do things, which we'll talk about that later too. But that disgruntled employee, unlike our old generation, they will move around. They do not have a problem. And if you were at the last session, we talked about it. They don't have a problem job hopping, right? They will move and move and move until they find the fit for their lifestyle and what they consider to be their life work balance, right? And I say that because we grew up under the time of work-life balance, where we all put our work first and life second. Mm-hmm. This generation really puts life first and work second. And it's not like, 70-40, it's a balance, but they definitely put life first. So when you think about when we were growing up on your resume, Kimberly, how many jobs would you have on your resume?
4.
Right, I'm 51. I've been in the workplace since I was 14. This is probably my 8th job in my entire career, where my 31-year-old, God bless, probably has 18 or 20 jobs already. And because they're going to consistently look for the next thing that's going to give them that fit, right? Next slide, please. So,
and I want to add too, I think the perception of that is sometimes is that, they're job hoppers, that, they're just always looking for the next best thing, they're hard to please, that they're not loyal.
Right.
They just know what they want.
They are
settled. Right. They're confident. They're curious. They're again.
Read that quote from the last with the last session. One of our guests said this, and if you're on, we'll give you a shout out. But it was worth saying again.
Yeah, and it was, and I tried to write it down. Well, this is
we're paraphrasing a little bit.
Yeah, approximately what I recall. So we raise our children to be strong, confident adults, right? I mean, the parents that are, putting in the time, right? That's what we want, and, we want them to not be afraid to dream big. Well, guess what?
They're doing
You did a good job.
They're doing
what you taught them. And they believe what you taught them.
Right.
It's okay. Don't be afraid of that.
Right. They're doing exactly what we've trained them to do. Not settle, know your worth, value your worth. put yourself first, they're doing all of those things, and they're doing it in a workplace that in some cases are rejecting everything that is, right? And whether you like it or not, I mean, statistics show that by 2035, 70% of the workforce is going to be between the millennials, between Alpha, because we were talking about that today, Generation Alpha, which is my daughter's an Alpha, she's 12, so in 4 more years, she'll be entering the workforce, right? And we currently now operate in a very awkward space where there are 5 generations now currently working in the workplace, 5. So that's 5 different opinions, feelings, work styles, work languages. And now what we got to figure out is how do we mesh these things together? How do we work together and figure out the best way for this to work? Gen Zs are going to become the leader in that, obviously, as the millennials begin to dwindle, but then you have the alphas coming in behind it. So we really got to figure that out. So next slide. As you can tell, I'm trying to get through the slides because it's really got to get to the conversation piece of what it is. But the bottom line up front, Kimberly, I think, you said this best, the expectations are higher than ever. And the workers are demanding a more frequent feedback and flexibility. And I want to stop real quick. Feedback, like they want the feedback. Like it sounds crazy, but they want us to tell them they're doing a good job or they're not meeting the expectations or how to do that, right? They're looking and seeking that kind of stuff. And I think people always think it's only about, flexibility. It's only about, it's not. It's about the whole thing. It's about flexible work arrangements, about personalized development. They definitely want to be developed. Okay. They come in with an entrepreneurial spirit. They all think they're bosses already. They come out of school, no offense. They come out of school and they do, because that's the way they've been trained and developed. But they also want that meaningful, purposeful, driven work. They want to feel like they've accomplished something. And I know I'm speaking for myself. I'm not going to put this on anybody that's here. But there are a lot of days that I go home and sometimes I feel like, did I get anything accomplished today? Like I feel defeated. Like
I was busy all day.
I was busy all day, right? But did I get anything accomplished? They don't want that feeling. They want to really feel an impact in their work. And I think we just have to figure out, what does that look like? So what job do we have within your 4 walls that fits that? And you have to give it to them. So that's where we are with those folks. And if you go to the next slide, because this is where we get into what I call the plus factor. This came up, don't laugh at me, folks, but I was channel surfing and I was going through all of my, streaming appers and everything had a plus. It was Disney Plus, it was Paramount Plus, it was no longer just Disney. Everything had a plus, right? Everything had something extra to offer. And I was like, you know what? That's what they're looking for. They're looking for the plus beyond the paycheck, right? What are we offering beyond? So if you can see the screen, what's the purpose? They want to have purpose. They want to connect work to bigger goals. It's a fact. Someone's nodding their head. That means I'm hitting the buttons right. Leadership. They want to be mentored and they want to be a mentor. They just don't want to be managed. They don't. The understanding piece of listening, and we talked about this, Nancy and I, before we got on this call today, we got to lean in and listen a little bit more, right? And lean in to learn a little bit more. And how do we adapt to the individual needs? Now, that part is, I think, Kimberly, is what scares most people. Oh my God, you want me to adapt to all of their individual needs? No, they all have a lump sum of individual needs that are together. And if we figure out what they are, there's a model that we can integrate those into our workplace, right? That speaks to what their expectations are. And we just have to look at how we want to do that. So the support side of it, from a training and feedback and encouragement, they need upward mobility. We'll get to purpose later, but it has to lead them somewhere beyond that paycheck. So that's why the plus is important. They need to have a work experience. I jokingly told people as I took my phone out, they want this moment at work. They want to be able to be like, look at what my job is doing. Look at what I get to do at work. Everything, unfortunately, needs to be almost an Instagrammable moment, right? So it's a bragging right. And I think I said something the other day, like your retention is how you get attention. Like that's how you attract people, is through your retention. And the way you retain is you have young people out here advocating for your workspace because you've created an environment that's productive for them and you've been giving them an experience. And I just think, it's important that we think about what those experiences look like. So we can go to the next slide.
Yeah, and don't be afraid of change. Don't be afraid of adapting, because it's also about understanding why that they do things maybe a little bit different. Lean into what they do know. I mean, they are the best branding ambassadors that you could find
Ever.
So lean into it. Don't stick your nose up at it.
Right.
I may not be on Instagram every day, but a lot of our employees
Right.
that are. So
Right.
why wouldn't you utilize that?
And they
leverage that.
They don't go to Glassdoor.
Yeah.
They go right.
What's that?
What's that? Right. They go right to Instagram,
Yeah,
right?
what's a fax machine? What's
Right.
that?
They go right to Instagram, and they letting all of their 10,000, 5,000, 2 million viewers know how they feel about your workplace. And that's important. So we want to just make sure that everybody's understanding kind of like what we're thinking. And like I said before, if you weren't in the last session, I'm not an expert. But what I am a father of a 31-year-old, a 21-year-old, and a 12-year-old. And as I talk about this, that 10-year gap from a parenting perspective, I have to parent each one of those individuals under the same roof, and that roof is going to be the company. Under that company, I have to now manage these 3 different individuals very differently, and they all have different expectations of me as the CEO. They have different expectations of how they want to be treated. They have different expectations of what their workload needs to feel like. They have different expectations on how they should be rewarded. And it's just a 10-year gap. And I've learned to lean in and listen to how to motivate each one of them separately under the roof of this company that I'm the CEO of. And I've learned that they all have different feelings about how to do the job, because my 31-year-old has a way, but my 21-year-old has a better way because technology has changed. When my 31-year-old started working, AI wasn't a thing.
Mm-hmm.
There was no Chat GPT or Claude or beautiful AI. That stuff didn't exist when she was in school and going to work, but it is today. So that's a shift all in itself, right? So those things are different. And if we can go to the next slide, when my 31-year-old was going through stuff, COVID did not happen. My 21-year-old did, COVID did happen. And I think COVID is what spawns a lot of what we see today in this flexible work environment, because we realize that we can work from home and be more productive from home. But it's our old way of thinking. I mean, I hear it here. I'm going to shout out where I work because we fight all the time. Everyone needs to be in the office every day. Why?
Why? So you can monitor, so you can stand over my shoulder.
Like, why? Why? If the work is getting done, right? What difference does it make? I'm gonna tell you why. This what you see on the TV is what they're jealous of. Go to the next slide. The next slide is what they think you're doing. See, they think you're doing that.
Well, so what if I'm getting my work
Yeah,
done?
but I'm not. So I'm in the office, right? Right? I'm in the office working every day. God dang it. You should be in the office every day. You shouldn't be sitting at a beach doing your work, drinking on the sangria while you're working.
I wish.
Oh but why not? And those are some notes there I want everybody to take a look at. We'll leave the slide up for a minute. But it's just true. I mean, it's the reality. If I could, I would, right? I can't, so I don't. But that doesn't mean that Nick can't do it because I didn't do it. I told people this before. I used to be a chef, and I remember a young lady came to me and said, my daughter, she don't eat Brussels sprouts. And I was like, she doesn't like Brussels sprouts? She goes, no. I said, well, how do you know? She said, because I don't eat Brussels sprouts. And I'm like, huh, okay, that's interesting. So she's never had a Brussels sprout, but because you don't eat it, she won't eat it. And that's kind of how we deal with the workplace. This is how we've always done it. So you got to do it, right? Because this is how we've always done it. And the buck back is, why do I have to do it that way when I can get it done quicker, more efficient, and I can get some of my time back, and I can be more productive? And we're saying no. Still use the dial-up AOL. Don't go to faxing. Don't go to. Do you know what AOL is? Exactly. It's my point, right? So
it's awful.
It is. Next slide. It's the reality, right? Here's some.
You hit on the sentence that I would love to be outlawed in the workplace.
That's how we've always done it.
Yep.
So vocabulary. So everybody on this call today, listen. We have a vocabulary fasting moment. We're going to outlaw. This is how we've always done it. Okay. Today we're making that a thing, right? It's a thing now. We're not going to say it. We will come up with a new slogan. We will figure out what that looks like, and we will share it with all of you. How would you like for us to tell you this is how we've always done it? I'm gonna bring in somebody younger real quick as we start to talk about the millennials here.
It's a non-answer.
How would you like me to tell you? It is a non-answer, but if I told you today, like, this is how we've always done it.
I would say why, and why does it have to be that way if there's a better way to do it?
Yeah. And I wonder what our response would be. Probably because I said so. And now you're being defiant. You're probably going to get a write-up, and all that good stuff's probably going to happen, right? But we'll lean into that a little bit more. The notes are here. We can go to the next slide. I think everybody's got to read a little bit. I want to talk to you about this because technology does matter. You can slide in. You can get a little closer in this moment because I want to get in here. But technology does matter, right? Do you use AI to help you get your work done?
I think that I personally don't yet, but where I'm at in my job, I don't think I would need it as much. But I do think that there are definitely uses for it,
advantages for it,
definitely.
Right? So when you come to work every day, because we're gonna get into it now, because this is where I like to get into conversation, right? When you come to work every day, like, what is your expectation of the workplace when you walk in?
I just want it to be, I want to be told like, hey, this is what we need you to do, and then I want to be able to do it, yeah, without having to be told this is how you have to do it. I just want to be able to do it.
But let me ask this question, because I probably could feel people on here right now cringing. You won't freelance and just go off the cliff with it. If you're unsure, you will come back and seek the guidance, right?
Yeah, I would say I would never just, if I didn't know what I was doing, I wouldn't just go, off and say, all right, well, this is how I'm going to do it. I would ask questions and try to figure it out. But if I figured out a faster way or a more efficient way, I think I would try to use that.
But the first takeaway is you want to be told the project and then left alone.
Yep.
Let me figure it out. Let me try to do it my way. And if I have any questions, I will come back and ask you.
Definitely.
Okay. I hope everybody heard that. Stay put, because that's kind of what I feel when I'm speaking and training and developing, right? Next slide. And this is just for people to read as we're going through this, because I really want to get into the conversation as quickly as I can. You see it. It says it there. 90% of CEOs say that adopting this hybrid work model is a direct reason for us to see a reduction in costs, right? It's true. I know when I work from home, I tend to start a little bit earlier, right? And I tend to work a little bit later. And I don't have travel time in between that. So if you travel to and from work every day and it's 30 minutes each way, that's an hour that you now have gotten more productivity out of that individual, and they tend to work a little bit longer. So it's just a way in which I think we need to rethink how we look at it and how we do things. So next slide.
And I love having all these kind of data points because it really gives you some like tangible proof. Of course, yes, this is very much, the emotional intelligence and understanding where they're coming from and all the feel goods, but there's tangible results for these
100%.
for your business.
100%.
We're not just like saying like, oh, we want everybody to, hug it out. there's a real advantage to your business and to your employees for this.
I think the third bullet says workers expect ongoing dialogue with their managers, and they want their voices heard and shaped. And we just heard it. It's literally what we just, so we're not making this up. It's really what they feel. Next slide, because this is the slide where I think you're going to become important, right? How important is purpose-driven work for you? Like, you're doing something for a purpose, like you feel there's a purpose for you doing this work?
I think it's, I mean, for me, almost 100% like importance. I want to work and do work that's important, and maybe I can get recognition for, and it can make an impact. I want to see the impact. I don't want to just do something over and over that just doesn't seem important, or I'm not even being told why, or like the impact. So I think purpose-driven work is like the most important thing.
So you said something there. You feel like sometimes you're doing work without the why behind it, like you don't even know why you're doing it.
Yeah.
Is that frustrating?
Yeah, absolutely.
Would you say today you feel more like an employee of a workplace, or you prefer to be more like a partner in the workplace?
I would love to feel more like a partner. And luckily I feel like my job right now, I do get that, but I do know a lot of people my age don't feel that
Like-
at all. And they are frustrated, and
Because they don't feel like a partner in it.
yeah,
Right.
yeah.
Do you feel like you would leave? He said he's
He's
okay.
good. You can ask that. He's good. He's good. Right.
If you feel that if hypothetically in your current position that you did not feel that purpose and that drive or understand the why, would you leave?
Absolutely.
100%. 100%. I knew the answer to that.
I do too.
It's reflective in everybody's turnover, right? And everyone sees it. What was the number for turnover in middle market? What was it? 16 to 27,000 per
Yeah, it was
employee.
it was
right?
yeah, like 30, like I think it was like 30 to 100%. So I think for like junior level employees, it was like 15,000. Here it is. Yeah, junior level employees, the average is 15 to 65,000 per turnover. Mid 27 to 92. Senior 50 to 225 per person for turnover.
So I want to take what you just said, and I want to say it's a fact here. I fact checked it. I went through this already. 70% of these people that we're talking about will leave their jobs for that reason. So if you take that 70%, multiply it by the cost, just look at that number as a company, right? Imagine if we took those dollars, half of those dollars, and reinvested into giving you the kind of work experience that you're looking for. You will stay.
Yeah.
I will have that retention, right? And it's more so an investment. And I think we got, again, words matter. It's an investment. You're not giving into anything. I know we feel like we can't give into this generation. We got to stand strong. No, it's a partnership. It's a true partnership, and it's an investment back into what we hope will grow into long retention, purposeful work, growth, and promotability, right? That's what we're trying to get to.
And guess what? Some of these things you can do for free.
Right.
How
about that?
Resetting your mindset.
How about that?
Treating them, giving them that the type of structure that they need, not the type of structure that we think they need, the type of structure that they need.
There was a survey done, and I think it was like 17% said they were willing to take a modest pay cut for a better work environment. Right. So that tells you, you're shaking your head. So, so that tells you like everything's not about the money, right? It's really not. It's really about for this generation, their trade-off for things for securing a better work environment. They don't want to leave. You don't want to leave, right? I don't think that's your goal. No. You want some stability somewhere, right? So they don't want to go anywhere. So I think we have to figure out through dialogue here, how do we get that marriage, that partnership? And I want to keep using that word, that partnership motivated in the workplace, right? Next slide. This one, I'll let, this was not a thing when we were in the workplace, right? No one cared about my mental health at work.
That wasn't a thing.
It wasn't a thing, okay? To the point, it wasn't a thing when my 31-year-old really started working, right? It really wasn't a thing. It's a thing now because we want people to bring their whole authentic self to work and create a sense of belonging and all of these things. And in order to do that, the well-being of the individual has to be attended to as well. We have to pay attention to that if we want 100% productivity out of that individual. And this is what I tell people, and I tell anybody that works for me, I never expect 100%. ever. But I want 100% of whatever your percentage is that day. Meaning, if you feel tired or you feel a certain kind of way and you're bringing 60% of that to work, I want 100% of that 60. Right? No one's going to give 100%. We're broken into too many things in our life to give all of ourselves to work. Right? Even you who probably don't have kids, don't have a lot, right? But you still have things, right, that affect you, right? So when you come into the workplace, I want to be aware of that a little bit. And it's okay, people, to get to know your employees, okay, beyond their first name. It's okay to know that they got a cat, a dog, they like to ski. These things are great. This is what makes you feel valued, right? When I can come in and I say, hey, how was your day? How was your dog so-and-so? How was the skiing? You feel like I'm a true partner and you feel like, hey, this is a place where they really care about me, right? So that my mental workspace can be free and clutter-free, and I can give my 100% of whatever I'm bringing to work today here.
Yeah.
Is that accurate?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, a simple "How are you doing?" like that really goes a long way.
Jesus, can say that again?
I said a simple "How are you doing?" or "How's your day?" That can
I
go a long way.
preach this all day long. Like you said it, Kimberly. Some things cost nothing, right? Good morning is free. How are you doing is free. How many times you walk past someone in your office or an employee or a team member and you just don't even speak, right? You just don't even say a word. You know, it's free. And that should be the culture. You know, and I tell people, you know, to me, culture is the worst thing that you allow to happen in your company. That becomes your culture. I just believe it to be true. So if you're a person that says, okay, tacit approval is going to be, we're not going to speak to people, that becomes your culture. Then you have a bunch of zombies walking around the place not speaking. I speak to everybody when I walk through this building.
Yeah. They might be smiling on the outside, but they're cursing you in their head.
Oh, they definitely curse you on the inside. But that's how small the change can be.
Yeah.
The change in the workplace can really just be good morning. How are you?
And guess what? When they say, how are you? You can actually tell them. And I'm going to listen.
And you're going to
that's a normal human being conversation. Just because you're at work doesn't mean that you have to, cease being a person.
Right.
Which sounds obvious, but it for some reason is not obvious.
Brand, I'm gonna take a pause and see if we can get some dialogue going because this is where the meat of I say the rubber meets the road here. I'd love to get some conversation going and some questions and feedback if we can.
So, Ed, I'm gonna take a point of privilege here and jump in because you told a really powerful story about a lady that was walking around with a drink tray with a really awful look on her face.
Yeah.
I would you share that story? I think it's pretty powerful.
So here in our casino, if you've ever been to a casino, it doesn't matter which one you go to, you have young ladies that walk around and they serve you drinks. Well, one day I'm on the floor, I'm walking around, and I see this disgruntled employee, and I mean, she looks like she doesn't want to be on the floor. So me being me, and those of you who know me, I'm gonna jump right into that moment. So I leaned in and I'm like, hey, what's going on? And her words to me was, I want to be EO'd, and that's early out. I want to be sent home early. And I said, okay, but you still have 4 more hours to go. She goes, yes, but I've made enough money for today. And he's laughing, but it blew my mind. I was like, wait a minute, you what? She goes, yes, I've made enough money for today. I'm ready to go home. And in that moment, I understood the value, that shift that I talk about. It is not work-life balance. That's when I understood the shift. It is life-work balance. And I really understood the value that this generation puts on their time. And it doesn't matter what you're going to pay me. It doesn't matter. The time is what I want back. I want the time back. And she was like, yeah. So I had to just continue to ask questions because I was like, I've never heard this before. And she told me, she goes, I have a number. Every day I come to work, I have a number. When I hit that number, I am ready to go. And I went, does it move up or down? She goes, yes. If I want to go on vacation, I have a larger number. If I want to buy something, her number of what she, and I can hear people going, we've had this discussion. I already know. And I'm going to answer for you. They're not thinking about retirement right now. They're not thinking about Social Security right now. That is not on their mind. What's on their mind is right now, this is what I need to make. And once I make that, I want my life back immediately. Like, I don't want to work another 20 hours this week because I don't need to. And that, to me, really opened my mind of how they think and how much value they put on their experiences outside of work. And I went to the manager immediately and I was like, listen, we got a problem. Because if there's 5 more of her on the floor, we need to figure something out. And we did. We peeled back that onion a lot. And 80% of the team members on the floor that were doing that all said that. They all said, yeah, we all have numbers when we come in on how much we need to make for the day. And once we're done, we'd rather go home. So I begin to say, we need to figure out what that number is every day so we can get the disgruntled employees out. And it varies. But now when you have someone who feels like they've made enough money today and they don't want to be there, but they're there anyway, and now they're not providing the service or doing the job to the best of their ability because they've hit a number, that's a shift. We never had that. First of all, I don't know what enough money even looks like, right? I'm still working trying to get more money. So it blew my mind to hear her say, I've made enough money for today. So yeah, Brandon, that, it just lets you, it kind of gives you a peek into the mindset of what, and they're not afraid. Listen, what I also learned by peeling that onion back, they get it. It's 2 or 3 of them living in an apartment together. I mean, they figure out how to minimize all of these expenses to put the extra value on experience. They get it. And I'm a little jealous. I'm not going to lie. Like, they figured something out that I wish I had figured out. But they're there now. And in that generation, it is all about, I earn this so that I can do that. And that is so important to them. She told me, she's like, listen, you're going to be older. And I was like, yeah, thank you. She said, but you're like my dad always talk about, work, work, work. He said, and then who wants to start living at 55 and 60? You can't even retire until you're like 70 years old. She goes, and then you want to start living? They don't believe in that. They are desperately trying to find the balance between the two. They want to have all of their experiences. They want to earn their money at the same time. They're trying to figure that out. And we're in that mix, unfortunately, because we are the employers, and that's where they sit. So I hope that kind of hit it a little bit, but it was that's where they are.
Yeah, and Ed, I think that's for people who are, hey, they're preaching employability skills. It's a different mindset now with this organization or with this generation, that you've got to approach it a different way, or as you've said it before, you're going to have to go back out to the market to go find somebody else with every other employer out there.
They're going to leave you. They're going to continue to seek what they're looking for. We raised them to be that, to your point, Kimberly. We've raised them to be that go-getter. Yeah. Don't settle. They're not going to settle. They're going to keep looking. So either we figure it out and listen, everybody, these are small adjustments. This is not some big shift in the workplace environment that we have to do. And most, to Kimberly's point, most of the things we're talking about are free. Yeah. These are not things that's going to cost a ton of money. So I'll open it up. And stay put, because I want you to hear what they're saying, just in case they.
And you could have handled that completely opposite. You could have gotten mad at her for saying that.
100%.
Categorize her as lazy.
100%. I could have easily went and said to her manager, "We have a disgruntled employee on the floor who clearly doesn't want to be here." Mm-hmm. Right? Yeah. We should go reprimand her and write her up or let her go or something. To your point, something disciplinary action could have easily followed that moment. But instead, what we did do was we peeled the onion back, and we actually put a board up where when they were on their shifts, they had to come and put like how much, and they had to chart it as they got closer. So that lets me know, okay, I know when. And then yes, it's a little more work on the manager side, right? But look at our productivity on the floor now. Look at what our turnover is on the floor now. our retention is at an all-time high. We went from 67% turnover to 22% turnover, right?
That's a really big number.
Right, it's huge. I mean, they stay now. I mean, they're here, but that's because we were willing to peel back the onion a little bit and find that compromise to be a partner with what they're trying to do. Now we have highly productive people on the floor. And like I said earlier, the retention is how you get attention. You know, when a young person sees another person and they're like, you still work there? That means something. That does it not? If you go to one of your friends and they're like, man, you still work there? And they're like, yeah, that means I want to go work there. That means they're doing something that speaks to us and I want to be a part of that. So your retention immediately becomes how you get attention in the workplace. So yeah, that's where I'm at.
I think that's great, and that may be a T-shirt that we're going to sell on Maryland Workforce Association. Is there any questions? Yeah, were there any questions for Ed and Kim?
I actually have a few comments. I love what you said about asking, how are you? How was your weekend? I think there's kind of a corollary to that. And it's that, you have to be present when you say it, and it's not rote. My mother taught me it's not what you say, it's how you say it. And I think that is huge. So I'll leave it there.
Yeah,
I agree.
I agree too. I had a supervising attorney when I worked at a law firm that I knew how my day was going to go whenever I walked into her office in the morning and said, "Good morning, Stacy. How are you?" And if I got "Oh, good morning, Brandon," okay, it might be a good day. If I got a grunt or a moan or something, something that was unintelligible, I knew I was in for it for the day.
You knew what kind of day you were going to have.
Right. Anybody else want to jump into the conversation here? This has been great.
Let's not be shy. Shoot,
Yeah, my goodness.
Well, I'm a teacher, and I like the fact that greeting your students at the door or allowing them a handshake and showing that you're human and so are they, and it makes them less likely to be rude or offensive, or because you've humanized them, you've welcomed them into your classroom.
Martha, I want you to stay here with me for a second.
Alrighty.
Because at our session, I talked about how we got here a little bit, and I talked about moving the goalpost, right? And what I meant by that was like how things have changed in the workplace is because our parental styles have changed at home, right? I call it we moved the goalpost a little bit. Some of the things that we used to allow that wasn't allowed for us, we allow children to do. I consider that moving the goalpost. And what happens to that is you now, as an educator, you have to move your goalposts as an educator on how you interact with children and allow them to do certain things and what they can get away with and what they can't. And then what happens from that is the workplace has to now make a shift and move their goalposts a little bit. Do you feel over the years that goalpost moving a little bit in education?
Absolutely. I've been here a long time, 35 years, and it is a huge shift. It's the phone is a huge shift. I mean, we didn't have them, so we didn't even have computers when I was growing up. So now we have everything, AI, everything, and it's at their fingertips. So I think the biggest thing in our school this year is a new momentum to limit the use of cell phones in the classroom. And that's in Baltimore County where I teach. And it's been working very, very well. And I think it's a shift for teachers as well to not be on your phone. We're all on it. It's a culture. They're younger teachers and they have that same mindset. That your phone is a connection for us, and kids use it all the time. So it's good that they're starting to get some training on that. I'm trying to push for attendance because attendance doesn't count, and I think that's crazy because in the real world, attendance counts a lot. So I agree with everything you said about the experiences. And I mean, I have 3 sons myself and all of them different ages, 40 to 20, and they are very, very different in just their whole pursuit of a job. It's very
It's
weird.
different.
Yeah. Hey, Ed,
That
I'm sorry. Go
really
ahead.
quickly, that phone, I just want to really quick, that's going to translate, right? Because in the workplace now, when you want to know why someone wants to wear the earbud and want to have the phone, and it's because it's allowed in schools. So
Yeah.
that's what I mean when I say it shifts. Everyone carries a little bit of that moving the goalpost momentum. I'm sorry, Brandon, go ahead.
No, this is a good one. I think this is going to tee you up for a lot of conversation. Brandy Gross in the chat said, as a millennial, how can we support the older generation in helping them make necessary shifts that they have or are resistant to?
That's a great question. And listen, you have to go through some of the pains as well, right? Because we're hard-headed and we're a little bit stubborn. But what we're not is we're not stupid. So when you see something, I would say do it, bring it, show your work, and then say, can I just take a second to show you how I got here? You know, we're resistant to technologies in many ways. God knows, my kids I don't even want to learn how to do half the stuff, right? But once they show me the end product, and then they show me the how-to, and it's a consistent messaging from you. You just have to let them know that you're not an adversary. Like you really want to be a partner. And I think the word partner needs to be used more, Brandy. I just think, listen, I'm really trying to be your partner. I'm not trying to take your job, okay? Because I know there's some people out there that's afraid that this young person is trying to take my job. I'm not here to take your job. I'm actually your partner, and I'm here to make your life easier. And I'm here to be a friend in this moment and a partner in this moment. And here's how to. And someone said it, I think earlier, might have been Nancy, it's not what you say, it's how you say it, right? So we just have to learn how to speak their language as they begin to learn how to speak your language. And that just may be something as simple as taking somebody to lunch and just talking about regular stuff and start to slowly break down those barriers. And that resistance, sometimes you got to find out why. I mean, is it because they're afraid you're going to take their job? Sometimes that's the case. You got to get to that why with those folks, and it's going to take a little bit of work. But I love the fact that you're willing, even within your question, to ask, how can I do that? And I think there's a lot of people out here that are willing to do that. And I just think we all need to put our guards down a little bit, lean in and peel back that onion and lean in to learn a little bit more.
Yeah, and again, taking the time to understand where they're coming from.
Right.
There's a reason that, we have these perceptions, and they may not seem the same as yours, and why, because, our generation, we were taught by baby boomers, it's the walk it off generation, toughen up, suck it up. And it's not necessarily correct. And we have to work on breaking that cycle. But again, understanding where we're coming from. And I think sometimes, they think that, when millennials are being, or Gen Z or being, a very, direct or entrepreneurial, that they're being disrespectful. Well, that's not necessarily the case. So I think just understanding, why they may be, a little standoffish, if you will. So, you want them to understand where you're coming from. So you have to try to understand where they're, and that, meeting the middle and that respect for one another goes so far.
Martha hit it. Learning to advocate for yourself is a teachable skill. We taught them that as parents. We did.
We didn't listen to it ourselves.
No, we didn't, but we definitely taught them to advocate for themselves. And it's a skill that they're mastering. And we got to learn how to deal with that. I mean, it's true.
Anybody else want to jump into the conversation? I see Robin, you came on camera here. I don't know if you wanted to jump in or any.
I was just going to say, I work for Cheney Enterprises, and we have about 1,200 employees. Our accounting department is rather large, probably about 50 people. Recently, we hired a lot of college graduates, which was a huge shift generation-wise for that department. And it's funny because I did check-ins with all these people regularly just to see how they were doing, how they were feeling. And repetitively, I got the response that I don't think I'm liked, or I don't think I'm doing something right because my boss doesn't say good morning, or they walk right past me and don't see me. So it was interesting when you brought that up, that just saying good morning means a lot to them.
And how easy that could be fixed.
So easy.
It's amazing.
So easy. And like I said, it's free. It won't cost you anything. But just being seen in your workplace is adding value to your workplace. And we just got to do a better job at it.
Absolutely. And Robin, thank you so much for being an employer partner with us on this conversation as well. That was great. Anybody else want to continue want to ask Ed? You know, Ed, while folks are thinking too, that back to Brandy's comment there at the end, the word resistant. You know, you had made or you had said during your presentation raising the bar, and I've been echoing it ever since about the green-haired employee and our resistance to stretching or to challenging our preconceived notions of what the model employee looks like.
I think Grace is actually on the call here.
Anne Arundel Workforce Development. Is that you, Grace, that I see?
Hi, I'm here.
There she is.
You know, Grace made a comment to me after we talked about the green hair, and she said that she had recently shaved her head, right? Nothing dramatic. She just shaved her head, and she felt anxiety about going back to work, on how she would be judged by doing so, not on her work performance. You know, so when you talk about stretching that a little bit, listen, you can easily walk away from the perfect employee based on your own biases, if you will, and the way that you feel they should come to work. Now, don't get me wrong. There are some customer-facing jobs out there where I get it. Tattoos over the eyebrows might not be the thing, but that's not what I'm talking about. And people understand, we fought with it here. You know, it was, oh, if you don't have natural hair color, if it's not your natural hair color, you can't work here. Why? What does my red hair have to do with my work performance, right? Especially if I'm not customer facing, I have no interaction, I'm at a computer every day, and I'm productive. Why should that bother you that my hair is green? But I've seen it. You know, you don't have any tattoos or anything that would prohibit you from coming to work. But we as a company have seen that shift where tattoos were not allowed 10 years ago with this company. They are today. Colored hair was not allowed. And all of these moves, we've seen our 60-some-odd% turnover as an entire company drop to below 40 for the first time in our 12-year history. And it's because we are willing to meet in the middle. And there's a stance where there are some non-negotiables. Don't get me wrong. We definitely have non-negotiables, but we've now added some negotiables. And that's where I think the middle ground has to be. We have to start adding some negotiables and start releasing some of the non-negotiables and start talking through some of the things that we can bend on a little bit to increase the value of the workplace for our partner, to increase the productivity of our partner, and to increase the retention of our partners.
If you can't answer the why, then you got to revisit it.
And you got to revisit it. 100%.
And it's, again, that's the whole, outlawing, somebody else, well, why do we do it this way? Well, that's just how we've always done it.
That's a cop-out.
Yeah, you don't have the why.
Right.
And if you don't have the why, then why are you doing it?
And the reason why they don't have the why is because that's what they were told. Right. So you're just regurgitating, you're not fixing. You break the cycle. Lean in a little bit.
Right. Stacy.
Good morning, everyone. What a great topic and conversation to have. It's been a great training, so thank you to everyone. I heard a lot about you, Edward, from your training, and I was really interested in getting here. And I guess as a mother, an employer, someone who's in workforce development, all combined, some of these topics they evoke a lot inside of you, especially as you're trying to navigate your own workforce and incorporate your children, as you all mentioned in a few of your scenarios. And you mentioned goalposts. And I am struggling from all of those lenses and wearing those different hats. And where do you define my son? I'll just be really transparent. He's 20, business major in college, and he just got a neck tat. And I'm like, what did you just do? You can't cover that with a collar, buddy. I kind of trying to navigate industries and understanding where the goalposts are set amongst our employers and the future are really, really challenging. And then from the lens of an employer, I loved what you just said about kind of looking at your negotiables and your non-negotiables and trying to set those. But you mentioned having a few young people next to you. I'm a millennial, and I wonder, whenever there are certain non-negotiables, how do they best receive hearing those things so that they feel heard, but also understand where that hard line in the sand needs to be drawn within your organization, so that they feel heard, but also interested in still joining your workforce or your organization?
Stacey, I feel you on all fronts. I think it's really the why. Everything for them is just understanding the why. Why can't I have green hair? Okay, perfect. Here's why. Because X, Y, Z, Z, D. Okay, I understand. It's not because I don't like you. It's not because I don't like your green hair. It's because of this. But just because is not good enough for them. They really need to understand the why. If you can explain it, that's all. It's just one step beyond giving the order. It's giving the why behind it. And if you can do that with them, he's shaking his head. They're receptive as long as you can educate them on the why. Because we never talked back. Okay. We didn't question nothing growing up. It's just, if it was said, it was said. My daughter asked me why 500 times a day. But why, Daddy? But why? Because it's important to them to understand. And they want to be able to get their part out. Not necessarily, and this is what you need to also understand. Sometimes they're not trying to bucket. They just want to get their part out. And sometimes by allowing them just to breathe it out of their soul, they feel better because they at least know you heard me. And then when you come back and you intently listen to what they're saying, and then you come back with things that make sense and the why behind it, that's how you get the buy-in. They begin to, now it's the partnership begins to form because you listened, you let them vent it all out. You came back with a compromise in the middle. The two of you understand each other. I understand why I can't have green hair. I understand why I didn't get promoted. I understand why I can't have a neck tattoo. I understand your concerns about it. And that's really key. We just gotta go one more step, just one more step beyond telling people. Like I tell, if you don't leave with anything else, it is teach, not tell. It's really that simple. Teach, not tell. I don't tell anyone anything. I teach everything. I don't tell anyone anything. So if you don't take anything else away, it's really a teachable moment, not a telling moment.
And who wouldn't want that respectful compromise? I do.
You would want that. Is that correct?
Yeah, absolutely. If I could just say something just on this topic, I think, especially people our age, if they come in with the green hair, for example, and they're told you can't have green hair, and they ask why, and you say, oh, it's company policy, or it's in the handbook, without saying why it's in the handbook, that really is the big difference maker, is like Edward said, going that one step further.
Let me ask this question. Would you take that personal at that point?
Yes.
Because I'm not giving you so now it's about you.
Yeah.
It's not even about, you just don't like me. And I think that's the important part. Like without giving that why, it only leads to one other thing then. It's personal.
Yeah.
It's me. Because you can't tell me why. So if I can't figure out why the green hair is bothering you, then it's not really the green hair.
You don't like
my green hair. So now I'm personalizing it and I'm internalizing it differently. So now my reflection is different, right? Am I pretty much hitting it? And I think that's why it's so important to communicate and have the dialogue and get uncomfortable to get comfortable, right?
That's the slogan.
That's it. That's where we are. So yeah, I hope that answered it.
Yeah. Monica, I want you to jump in as well. You had a question about Gen Z and professionalism.
Yeah, I was thinking about you would ask a question about the green hair and appearance, and it just kind of made me think about what is that professionalism viewpoint for Gen Z? Because I think some of us have this idea of what it means to be professional in the workplace. And just my encounters it's different. I think I get my mind blown often saying, okay, this is a new look. Okay, I can see that. I can go with that. Okay, it's not bothering anything, but just that idea of what does it mean in the Gen Z generation to be professional.
Yeah, and Ed, I want to give you the background too. Monica is also one of our career coaches in Southern Maryland. So I think she's working with Monica. You working with middle school or high school?
Well, actually, no. I used to be with the Blueprint, but
Okay.
now I'm doing intake on the workforce side and working with all of those career advisors and careers. Yeah, I work with all of them.
It's that RISEC poster in the background that threw me.
Yeah, I love RISEC still, so I still use it. So, but I see everybody walking in the door when they walk in the door looking for their job. I'm the first one they see. So I see a lot of people, hear a lot of people, talk to a lot of people. So just want to hear your feedback on that.
I would, and this is for everybody, but you have business leaders on this call as well. I would encourage all of you to go back and revisit your handbook and your policies and have a young person in the room when you're doing it and work through it and talk through it and have your most highly decorated young individual in your company sit at the table with you and kind of go through that handbook and then revisit it, because it's the old playbook. We just keep, the handbook is always shifted by an incident or by something that happens is how we get there. And typically, most times, unfortunately, in the workplace, it's something that you've even been sued over or something didn't go right. And now we got to make a change. And then it's a drastic change that's not really thought through correctly for the long game, right? So I would encourage everyone to just go back and take a look at it, because the old saying, yesterday's price is not today's price, right? And it's not. It's so different. We just talked about the 10-year difference. And I question how many companies go back and revisit their handbook and policies every 5 or so years, because the workforce is changing so dramatically. So that would be, somebody was going to say something. That would be my first thing.
Yeah, absolutely. And I
think that's Gen Z or younger. I know you, Grace. Is there anybody else that can maybe speak to what they view as professionalism in the workplace?
I'm young and you've called me out. I think when I think of professionalism, I think of actions more than anything else. I don't really, because I know that like right now, today I'm sick, so I'm at home. And I know that even though I'm sick, I said, hey, my coworker needs this done. My coworker needs me to complete this other task. I said I'd get this done by the end of the week. And so even though I really don't want to be online, I'm saying, hey, these are my priorities. This is what my company needs. And so I'm being a professional by managing both of my physical needs of driving is not going to be a good time for me right now. And my work needs me to complete these things so we can progress as a company. So when I think of professionalism, I don't think of, okay, I need to have my, need some linen slacks. I need some, flat shoes. I think of, okay, well, what do my actions say? But also I'm not customer facing. If I'm customer facing, then like the person that son got a neck tattoo, he needs a matching foundation if he gets a job that is against their policy, right? Because you got to be able to adjust with the company's needs sometimes. So it's figuring out, what's the compromise that I'm willing to make, and what does my company need? What compromises is my company able to make? Most days at work, if I have chronic pain, so if I'm having a flare up, people are cool with me going to go work in a dark room, right? And so it's all about, I see professionalism as my actions rather than how I look. So that's been my experience.
Thank you, Grace. God, that speaks to it perfectly. I mean, actions. You're doing your job. You, in no way, shape, or form, is your performance lacking because your perception might be slightly different from somebody else. It's action.
Got anything else out there? You know me, I could talk forever on this topic. I like it a lot.
I wanted to shout out this comment. Caroline Weber said authentic listening, but authentic listening with resolution and authentic explanation makes all the difference.
1,000%. 1,000%. And if we can get to that point, man, what a great workplace we would have.
Absolutely. Anybody else for Ed and Kim?
Got a lot of shy people today, Brandon, but it's okay. We'll do another one in person.
Right?
Brandon, if you wouldn't mind, so I know we have a lot of workforce professionals on the call here today. Would you mind, as I want to kind of ask them some questions on here too, could you pull up the slide, the key strategies to engage the modern workforce? Because I'm really, really curious around, specifically what they're seeing.
There you go.
with career coaches. Of course, we're talking about, in businesses and how they're perceiving their employees. But, when you are coaching your clients, on how to interact with their, employers or current employers, or their hesitancy, to going into the workplace, or what their barriers are. I'm really curious around that, because, in a lot of conversation, you have had extensive conversations. These are some of the things that we were talking about, is being able to provide them, clear career pathways. Again, the why, mentoring, they actually enjoy constructive feedback.
Pause. They want to be promoted, folks. They want to move up. They want to move. They want to be coached up. They really, really want to. They don't want to be stagnant. They don't want to sit in a job for 35 years in the same position. They want upward mobility. They want a clear pathway for upward mobility. And it would behoove all of you as these leaders, assign a mentor to them. They want to be, they also have to attach to someone, right? Who's going to be their, their ERG, you know what I'm saying? Like they need that. It's important. Yeah.
Absolutely. And again, soft skills training, emotional intelligence.
We talked about that a lot today, didn't we?
And that doesn't even matter what generation. There's, people from all different generations that could use, a refresh on that one.
Right.
We talked about earlier, the mental health support.
Yeah.
So again, of course, yes, from an employer's perspective, they have to be mindful of that. But of course, the career coaches, when you're helping them overcome these barriers, of course, I know that you're talking to them about their current, mental health, but also what to expect when they get in the workplace, how to navigate, when they're having issues, when to speak up, how to advocate for yourself, in a professional manner. It is okay to advocate for yourself, but they have to understand that, as much as an employer may, want to, accommodate as much as they possibly can, again, balance.
And the why. You got to tell them why. It's the why is so important because they have a processing mind. They have to process and analyze everything, right? So you have to give them something to chew on. If you don't, then it becomes personal. And once they internalize it personally, you've lost that employee. I'm just telling you, you've lost credibility and everything's personal. It's just it's the way it works right now.
I don't think it's their generation. Their generation just has the courage to say it and act on it.
Yeah, they will definitely tell you.
I feel the same way. And that was certainly not the way that I was brought up. Right. You know, it was, you know, children are seen and not heard. And, you know, don't, you know,
listen, there's
you're
people
spoiled, you're coddled.
People on this call, there's people on the Zoom on the Zoom right now who sits on their hands, who want to say things, right? But the work environment doesn't allow them to, right? And God knows I do, right? But I do. People who know me know I definitely speak out. So, but there's a way in which you do that, right? Yes. There's a professional way to have that conversation with that next generation. It's a way where it's not pointing fingers, it's not accusatory. It's really like I said, you're leaning in to learn, you know, each other. It's a partnership.
So I'm curious, for our workforce professionals, what are some of the maybe issues and barriers that you're seeing around this kind of generational gap? Whether it's you personally or that you're hearing from your clients.
Well, y'all, it's like an Arid extra dry commercial. You know, don't be shy. Get a little closer now. Come on. Probably just dated myself with that Arid extra dry reference, right?
Yeah, you reach back a while with the Arid, but one of the things I do see is that, like you were talking about earlier, the reasons for leaving a job, right? It's not about the money. It's not about what you know, for the future, I'm saving up and I'm getting time. They don't think about that kind of a thing. And the younger generation and some others, you know, have the same concept. It's about, how did I feel on the job? How was I treated on the job? I just couldn't take it anymore. I'm not going to do it. And I don't have anything prospect in the future, but I know I'm not staying there.
But I'm not doing this.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
And it's okay. I know it's so hard to say that that's okay.
Yeah, it's hard.
Because look, it's expensive. I mean, you got to give a lot of credit to this generation. They have to be creative to survive nowadays with the prices of everything. Well, that's a tough thing to do.
Let's lean into that for 1 second. Everyone needs to understand, it's not the days of old. It's the gig economy. They have a lot of choices out here to earn money. We didn't have those choices, right? We couldn't get frustrated and just say, you know what, F it, I'm out of here. I'm going to go do what?
Yeah,
we didn't have those options. We didn't have Uber and Influencer and Instacart, and we didn't have all these other revenue streams to go out and earn money where they do. They have options, okay? And I could tell you right now, they're going to use them. You know, we didn't have those options growing up. We had a job, and they were limited, right? So you held on for dear life. They don't have to do that. They can literally go out. I told the story on the Raising the Bar. I know a young lady who's making $112,000 a year. And she's doing it through a stream of like 4 different gig jobs.
Stuff I've never even heard of.
And she works Monday through Thursday, right? So, you know, they have options. Yeah. So we need to understand that too. I think it's part of, you know, understanding the climate that we're in and the change that it has turned into, you know, and that it makes everything different. It's all different. Okay. Any more questions out there? No? Maybe so?
Go ahead.
Hello?
Yep.
Can you hear me?
We can.
Yep.
Okay. You were saying, like, what was one of the biggest challenges facing as a career advisor? Thus far, I've been seeing them not being focused. I've had a couple of clients, younger clients, and they're coming in and they're telling us like their stories and how they want to be assisted. You know, they want to get a job. They want to be able to move forward in whatever career path. So, you know, I'm excited about that. And I'm like, okay, like, you know, let's start working on your IEP. Let's start, you know, setting some goals for yourself and all that. what I'm seeing is there is no follow through on their part. So, I'm doing my part and I'm reaching back out to you once the initial assessment has commenced. And now it's like, you know, um, are you coming back in? Do you still need my help? Do you still need this? Do you still need that? And, I had one person who wanted help for to become a CNA. And I'm like, okay, so, let's get some things done prior to setting up like, your WIOA and all that. Obviously, the client never followed through on just the regular stuff that was free. The client did come in saying that they were going to go interview at Rita's. So I'm like, okay, how did that go? And it's kind of like, because I'm older, I get what you're saying. I have older children. So, I see the climate and how unserious a lot of people in that generation are. And it's kind of disheartening because it's like, I want to help you. I see what you don't see, getting up, going to work every day, turning on the news every day, the climate in which we are living in. But it's how do we get to engage them? And it's what else do you want me to do at this point? I've called, I've texted, I've sent emails. I've gone as far as, obviously I'm not going to show up at your home, but I don't know what else to do to motivate them to say, I'm here to help you. I just feel like we're on a cliffhanger.
Right. Sometimes you got to lead with the personal side first, not the professional side. I think sometimes when we are trying to help them from a professional standpoint, it's overwhelming.
Mm-hmm.
They don't know how to respond in that space, right?
Mm-hmm.
So they shut down,
Yep.
because they don't know how to be a professional, right? They
Mm-hmm.
don't. We have to understand what we're starting with. And sometimes you got to work into it. You got to get to know them. You just got to start at the personal level, the very softest, lowest level, and work your way up, because they need constant communication, constant feedback, constant encouragement, right? And we have to figure out how to meet them where they are. You have to meet that individual right where they are. And they're not where you're trying to get them to be.
Mm-hmm.
They're starting at the very baseline level, and it's all based on emotions. And once you tap into that, you now have their buy-in, and they will seek more because you're feeding something to them that they have value in, right? When you start talking above them a little bit, they get discouraged. And it's like, you know what? Yeah, never mind. I'll just go do some shaved ice at Rita's.
Because I
Right.
wonder
Right.
if you were to ask this person, why did you want to go into the CNA program? And I wonder what their answer would be. And if the answer is like, well, my mom said that this was a good one
Right.
to go into,
Right.
they're not going to follow through. They're
That's
not going to follow
man,
through.
such a point.
Well,
Go ahead.
I'm sorry. I've done that. Like I've had those deep conversations. And especially with this this particular person, close the door, what's going on, to the point where this person is almost in tears, letting me
Mhm.
know like the personal side, this is what's going on. So that's why I'm like, I love what I do, because it's more than just assisting with getting them a job. It's, finding out the deep down what's going
Yeah.
on, because if you got trauma and if you have all these different things, it doesn't matter what job I get you, the trauma is going to be there. Now, I'm not a psychologist, I can't help you, but maybe we can see about different programs to help you deal with that prior to you going into the workforce. And this person in particular has a lot of trauma, has a lot of, couch surfing,
Yeah.
the person that they were really dedicated to and relied to is no longer in their life. So they felt like, I have no one. So we got to that point, and I'm like, okay, like I'm here for you. You were talking about you want to be a CNA, but you want to work overnight because you don't want to deal with people. You don't want to deal with coworkers because you've dealt with people that have, you felt betrayed your trust. And now it's like, I don't want to, the barrier is there, the wall is there. I don't want to deal with nobody. I just want to go to work. I don't want to talk to nobody. And I feel like if I work overnight, I don't have to deal with nobody. And I'm like, well, you still got to deal with people. You still got to talk to people. But you have to make some type of connection with your colleagues. You don't have to be best friends, but there needs to be an open line of communication. So I felt like, come back in, let's have a deeper conversation. It's more to me than just putting you in the workforce, because I'm like,
Right.
I can put you at a job at McDonald's.
That you made a much bigger impact on that person than you realized. The fact that you listened to them, that you had that conversation, that they felt, safe enough to share that with you.
This is a question. I don't know the space enough on how you all work, right? Is there a pass off in that moment where she could say, now knowing that this person has opened up their whole self, and we're trying to get them to be authentically themselves at work, but they're broken a little bit, right? Is there a pass off to send them to someone else for that mental health component as part of the strategy to get them whole enough that they can do the job irrespective of day, night, dealing with people, not dealing with people, versus just going, I'm not saying you did this, but saying, okay, well, I don't know what to do with that. Is there anywhere in our framework where we can take that individual and pass them off to get them whole enough to be a valuable contribution into the workforce? And I don't know that answer.
Well, that's a really good example, because the answer is probably yes and no. And that's something that is probably always needs to be improved upon. How that's done is probably not going to be figured out until you really kind of, dig into that. So yeah, I think we should always try to find more ways to.
Those collaborations
with
other nonprofits or other.
Yeah.
Because it takes a village.
Yes.
Right. And I always tell people that saying is so powerful when you really break it down. It says it takes a village to raise one child, right? One. So just think about the magnitude of support that has to be wrapped around these individuals to get them at any point started, right? So someone just put in I think it was Denise, helicopter parenting hasn't helped. Hey, preach, by the way. That's definitely, again, moving the goalposts. Things changed, and here we are. And we're trying to, I don't know, land that helicopter right now,
It's so hard because you want to overcompensate in your parenting. Right. I find myself at times where I'm making my 8-year-old anxious with my I want to wrap her in bubble wrap and put tracking devices on her and
all those things.
Yeah. And I'm creating her anxiety. I need to chill. But
all right, Brandon.
That's a fantastic point to end on. I think of having that conversation about the people that we serve. They're not just coming in looking for jobs. They are a whole person. And that's the conversation that, I think we started with bridging the gaps in building that pipeline. And I think that's kind of where we're ending on. So thank you very much to Ed and to Kimberly for their time and their expertise, their talents for sharing it with us. We're going to end here because it is almost 12 o'clock. And we've been doing this for an hour and a half. So I really appreciate Ed again and Kim for doing this. We're going to be in touch with a survey this afternoon. Of course, we'll also have the slides so that you can have some of the really great data that they've put. So be on the lookout from an email from me this afternoon. And again, we have a number of other opportunities for these conversations that happen at Raising the Bar to then carry over into sessions like this. So stay tuned. We'll have a number of conversations in the future. Again, thank you so much. And we'll be in touch. Have a great rest of your day.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Nancy, I think we're good. You might want to just close it out.